I knew something was wrong the moment I walked into the data center and heard the fans struggling. Not their usual steady hum. No. This sounded like a 40-year-old smoker climbing stairs. That room was my sanctuary, my chapel of cold aisles and blue LEDs. 7 years I'd kept the payroll heart of this healthcare network beating, quietly, invisibly, perfectly. Senior systems analyst on paper. But in reality, I was the one keeping 22,000 nurses, paramedics, radiographers, admin staff, porters, surgeons, everyone paid on time. If I called in sick, the entire NHS partner hospital chain didn't get overtime. And when NHS staff don't get overtime, they don't send HR an email. They walk out, and the whole system collapses in 4 hours. So yes, I worked miracles in this room. And I was the only one who even knew where the miracles lived. I sat down with my usual breakfast, lukewarm Pret coffee, and a desperate hope that today would not explode, and ran a patch that looked like I'd stitched it with barbed wire. But it held. It always held. Before I get deep into how these managerial geniuses tried to destroy the one person keeping their hospital network alive, do me a favor. Tap subscribe and drop a like. Keeps these corporate horror stories flowing. Right back to the flames. People outside think payroll tech is boring. They think it's just spreadsheets and time cards. No. It's a 20-year-old SQL monster, duct-taped to outdated VPN tunnels, ancient HR modules from 2008, half-migrated cloud software, and a contractor-built Frankenstein API that breaks if you breathe too loudly. I called it Cerberus. 3 heads. All angry. All mine to tame. Every fortnight, Cerberus woke up starving. It needed data from 50 clinics, 12 hospitals, and 300-plus GP partner practices. It chewed hazard pay rules from Wales, overtime from London, shift differentials from Scotland, and union agreements that read like cursed riddles. One bad input. One dodgy CSV. One extra comma. Cerberus swallowed the entire region's payroll and spat out pure chaos. But I knew every quirk, every temper, every ghost field hidden in the database. I was the only reason the system hadn't died years ago. And then, the email arrived. Actually, it wasn't an email. It was a calendar invite. Subject line: Operational Excellence Review Mandatory. Attendees: Emma Clarke, Richard COO. Consultant, Oliver Gray MSc MBA. MBA. There it was. The scent of doom. I stared at the invite, my eye twitching. Richard never called meetings with me. He hated coming near anything technical because code made him break out in metaphorical hives. I finished my coffee, saved my work, and backed up the Cerberus config files because I had a sudden, awful feeling. Not a normal bad feeling. A storm is coming bad feeling. Walking into the main office felt like stepping out of a bunker and into a battlefield. Everyone was too quiet. People typed without breathing. The interns avoided eye contact. The air even smelled different, like nerves and printer toner. Something was coming, and it had the energy of a man with an MBA and a dangerous amount of confidence. I reached the conference room. Took a breath. Opened the door. Richard looked nervous. MBA boy looked excited. Never a good sign. Emma, take a seat, Richard said. I sat, calm on the outside, my brain internally barricading the doors. He cleared his throat. Oliver has been reviewing workflows. He believes we can modernize payroll processing. MBA boy beamed. Your system is very legacy. I've built a new model that processes the entire fortnightly payroll in one streamlined workspace. I blinked. And this workspace is. He clicked his trackpad dramatically. Excel opened. Macros flashing in the toolbar. Excel. He built a payroll engine for 22,000 NHS staff. In Excel. I felt something inside me die. Richard folded his hands. As part of restructuring, we're transitioning payroll systems. Today will be your final day. Final day. MBA boy smiled sympathetically. I'll be taking over your responsibilities. I stared at him, at his shiny shoes, at his confidence, at his spreadsheet. My voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm a person feels right before the building explodes. You're firing me, I said. For a spreadsheet. Richard exhaled. It's just business. No. It was stupidity. Weaponized. I stood up, collected my things, and headed for the server room, one last goodbye. But as I walked, something else hit me. Something dark. Something electric. They had just fired the only person who knew how to keep Cerberus alive. And the beast needed feeding. Tomorrow. My hand touched the server room door. The hum behind it sounded hungrier than usual, almost like it sensed the chaos coming. And I realized I wasn't walking away from a job. I was walking away with the only match that could keep this entire hospital chain from burning. And tomorrow it would burn. T. He walked back to my desk, felt like the world had tilted 3 degrees to the left. People were whispering. Not loudly, no, corporate whispers are silent screams behind polite smiles. Linda from HR scurried past me holding a thick envelope, the kind they use when they're about to neuter your career with paperwork. She didn't meet my eyes. Classic coward move. I reached my workstation, my messy, glorious workstation. Dual monitors. Mechanical keyboard that clicked like an angry cicada. Sticky notes everywhere. A mug that said, I void warranties for a living. And standing right beside my chair. MBA boy. Oliver Gray. The spreadsheet messiah. He was literally bouncing on his toes. Like he'd just been elected Prime Minister of Payroll. Hey Emma, he chirped. I'm going to need your system passwords for the transition. I turned slowly. Very slowly. Like a horror movie character turning toward a demon. Passwords, I repeated. He nodded eagerly. Yeah, admin logins, database keys, VPN tokens, the whole kit. Oh, I said. You want all of that? Yep. He grinned. Should only take me a few days to fully migrate the system into my new model. Honestly, once this Excel architecture is in place, payroll will practically run itself. Payroll will run itself. This man was confidently telling me that a 22,000 staff multi-union multi-region payroll system would run automatically. Inside a spreadsheet, built by a child who thinks pivot tables are advanced computing. I smiled. Not a polite smile. A cryptic, middle-of-the-night horror movie smile. The documentation is in the system, I lied. There was no documentation. The only documentation lived in my brain and on a sticky note that said, If Cerberus panics, pray. Oliver nodded like a golden retriever. Great, I'll start running preliminary checks tonight. Tonight. The night before payroll day. Beautiful. I shut down my computer for the last time. The fans wound down like a dying animal. The lights flickered. Even the LED indicators seemed to whisper. Godspeed. Emma, Oliver said suddenly, blocking my exit. One more thing. He pulled up his laptop. Excel glowed with charts and macros. Does the system ingest the clinic's overtime logs automatically? I paused. Utter silence. Only the sound of my sanity leaving my body. Yes, I said. It ingests them automatically. Translation, no, it does not, and it never has. Cool, he said. I'll just link the sheet to the staging table. Good luck, I whispered. You'll need it. He beamed. I've modernized 3 workflows already. Have you now? I said, picking up my box of belongings. What did you modernize? The directory structure, he said proudly. I renamed your folders to something more intuitive. My blood went cold. What did you rename them to? Oh, just simple stuff, he said. Payroll Engine Final. Payroll Engine Actual. Payroll Engine Real Final 2. I dropped my box. You reorganized a live system. He blinked. It wasn't live. The dashboard wasn't green. What dashboard? Oh, the one I made in Excel. My eyelid twitched. I considered screaming. I considered violence. I considered summoning an ancient demon. But instead, I whispered 2 words. Goodbye, Oliver. Linda caught me at the elevators. She thrust the envelope at me with the shakiness of someone handing over a ransom demand. Emma, if you could just sign the severance documents. I signed. Fast. Aggressively. Like I was carving my initials into the hull of a sinking ship. Your badge, please, Linda said. It's protocol. I handed it over. It made a nice, loud clack against her clipboard. Then security arrived. Not because I was dangerous, but because corporate likes theatrics. Paul was the guard assigned to escort me out. He sighed. Sorry, Em, they told me to walk you out. It's fine, Paul, I said. But cash your pay early tomorrow morning. He frowned. What does that mean? Just do it, I said. Before 10 a.m. He nodded slowly. Okay. The elevator doors closed. And as they slid shut, I saw Oliver through the glass hallway. Already clicking through his spreadsheet, humming to himself, completely unaware that he was building a ticking time bomb with formulas he found on Google. Outside, I sat in my car. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't slam the steering wheel. I just breathed. The wind outside was calm. The parking lot was quiet. And my phone buzzed with one single text. Unknown number. Quick question, what's the password to Cerberus? I put the phone face down and whispered. You don't feed Cerberus spreadsheets. Then I started the engine. Rolled out of the lot. And left the building behind me. But I knew. They had no idea the disaster coming tomorrow. They had fired the only person who could stop it. And the beast gets hungry on payroll day. Emma woke up the next morning expecting silence. Instead, she heard her phone buzzing. Non-stop, short bursts, long rattles, the kind that only happen when panic is spreading faster than information. She didn't check it immediately. She made coffee first. Strong, too strong, the kind that hits your chest before your brain. Only then did she flip her phone over. Dozens of missed notifications. Emails. Texts. Calls. All piling up like debris after an explosion. She opened one text at random. Someone in payroll was apparently double-checking if the secondary tax table ever needed a manual refresh. Another was asking where the overtime calculators lived. Another one claimed the hours report was showing weird symbols. Someone else wanted to know if the system usually takes this long. Emma didn't reply. She scrolled further. Someone else wrote that they couldn't find last quarter's reconciliation scripts. Someone else said the import wizard kept crashing. Someone else said their screen wouldn't stop blinking red. It was obvious. Nobody had any idea what they were doing. She leaned back on her couch and took a slow sip of coffee. This wasn't her problem anymore. But that didn't stop them. More messages pinged in rapid fire. Someone complaining the time clock data looked scrambled. Someone else asking if the salary caps were supposed to recalculate overnight. Someone else panicking because the system keeps freezing. She set the phone down. Let it vibrate against the table until the sound blended with the hum of her refrigerator. Then it stopped for a moment, just long enough to trick her into thinking the storm had passed. It buzzed again. Longer this time. She didn't answer. Not yet. She knew what was happening, even without looking at any logs. They had pulled her out of the engine room, handed the controls to a guy who still believed Excel could solve civil engineering, and now the machinery was tearing itself apart. And the funniest part, they still thought a few frantic messages would magically plug all the holes. Emma picked her phone back up, scrolled lazily through another batch of desperate texts, and let out a single breath through her nose. Not a laugh. Not quite. More like the sound a mechanic makes when she sees a car crash she warned everyone about for years. She couldn't help thinking. This was just the beginning. And Friday was still coming. Emma stepped out of the grocery store with the creamer she didn't really need. The heat outside felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. She'd only been fired for a day, but chaos traveled fast. When she unlocked her car, her phone buzzed once. Then again, then again, then it shook so long she thought it might fall off the seat. Her voicemail inbox was a graveyard. The first message started playing automatically. A familiar voice, tight, strained, like she'd been holding back tears all morning. Emma, employees are saying their deposits didn't go through. We're getting a lot of calls. Can you please call me? Emma stared through the windshield at nothing, let the message finish, and deleted it without a single reaction. Another message rolled in before she could blink. This one was breathless, chaotic, like someone talking while jogging. Bro, the drivers are losing their minds out here. Someone taped a picture of Chad to a forklift and ran it over. Emma's lips twitched, almost a smile, almost. Delete. Next. A third voice played, nervous, shaky, the sound of a man who had pushed too many wrong buttons. Emma, so, the system is flashing red warnings. The manual override is frozen. The AC file isn't generating. I tried redoing the VLOOKUP and now the entire sheet is blank. Call me. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, leaned her head back against the seat, and exhaled slowly. Of course he blanked the sheet. Of course. Delete. Then came the last voicemail. A voice she hadn't heard directly in years, smooth, carefully controlled, but cracking at the edges like someone calling from a sinking submarine. Emma, we need to speak, immediately. She didn't delete that one. She just let it sit there, hanging in the silence, vibrating in the air like the moment right before lightning hits the ground. And she realized something. They weren't calling her for help. They were calling her because the ground was already giving way beneath them. And the fall hadn't even started yet. The CEO stepped into my apartment the way a man walks into a confessional booth, hoping for forgiveness, fearing damnation, and realizing he probably deserves both. He looked around like my IKEA bookshelf might judge him. Pixel arched her back and hissed, which honestly felt spiritually appropriate. Please, he said, voice cracking, tell me you can fix this. I motioned toward the kitchen table. Sit, don't touch anything, the cat bites. He obeyed. Pixel stared at him with the same expression I had when Oliver typed delete all into production. I poured him coffee. No cream. No sugar. He didn't deserve flavor. He took the cup with both hands, like it was holy water. I'm sorry to intrude at your home, but this is catastrophic. I sat across from him, calm as a monk. You don't say. He exhaled shakily. 22,000 employees have no pay. The union called a full shutdown. Local news is camped in front of HQ. And I prompted. He swallowed. The board wants my resignation by Monday if this isn't fixed. There it was. The real reason he was in my kitchen instead of hiding in his corner office. He needed me. He needed me more than Wi-Fi, oxygen, or whatever miracle kept Chad's brain functioning at 40 FPS. I took a slow sip of coffee. So tell me, what exactly did they say happened? He looked down at his cup, humiliated. That there was a miscommunication between departments. I raised an eyebrow. That's one way to describe firing the only person who knows where the system's skeletons are buried. He winced. That wasn't my decision. Doesn't matter, I said. You didn't stop it. Silence. The kind that makes the air feel thick. After a long moment, he spoke again. Miss Clarke, Emma, I'm asking you to help us, whatever it costs. There it was. The magic phrase. I leaned back, folding my arms. Let's talk terms. He nodded quickly. Yes, of course. You said on voicemail, 25,000 for the weekend. I almost laughed. Oh, sweet summer CEO. We weren't even close. That was before I knew the union shut down 3 distribution hubs, I said. Before the news took aerial footage, before drivers were sleeping in their trucks. He swallowed hard. Pixel watched him like she was waiting for me to say the word, attack. I continued. You didn't just break payroll. You broke trust. You broke federal compliance. You broke the company's spine. He rubbed his temples. I know, tell me what you want. I tapped the table with one finger. First, full payment up front, wire transfer. I'm not touching a keyboard until the money clears. He nodded. Done. Second, I said, holding up another finger. You remove Chad from anything related to systems, operations, or decisions that affect human beings. Done. Third, Oliver never touches payroll again without my permission. Agreed. Fourth, I continued, I come back as director of systems. He blinked. That position doesn't exist. It does now, I said. And it reports directly to the CIO. He hesitated. I tilted my head. You want payroll fixed? He exhaled. Fine. Pixel meowed like she was keeping score. And lastly, I said, leaning forward, I want a written statement, company-wide, signed by you, acknowledging that management error caused the payroll failure and that the firing of critical personnel contributed to the collapse. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. That, Emma, that will make us look incompetent. I smiled. You are incompetent. He winced like I slapped him. You want me to put this in writing? Yes, I said. And send it to everyone. He clasped his hands together. That'll destroy internal confidence. I shrugged. You already did that. I'm offering you a reboot. He stared at me, defeated. But he knew I was right. They broke the company. Only honesty and competence would patch it back together. Finally, he whispered. Fine, we'll publish the statement. I stood slowly. He watched me like someone expecting a verdict. Good, I said. Because now we can move to the real part. He blinked. The real part. I grabbed my laptop case from the counter. Zipped it closed. Slung it over my shoulder. Then I looked him dead in the eyes. James, your entire system is on fire. And Oliver didn't start it, management did. He swallowed. So what happens next? I walked to the door. Opened it. We go put out the fire, I said. And then I rebuild your entire payroll architecture from scratch. He nodded, relieved. Thank you, Emma. This means a lot. I stepped into the hallway. Pixel followed, tail high, like she was also ready to burn the building down. I turned back to him. Oh, and James. Yes. When we get to the office, don't let Chad talk. Why not? Because, I said, the last thing we need is a man who thinks Excel is a database giving opinions. And with that, we headed out. I knew what awaited us. A panicking building. A broken system. And the delightful chaos of a company reaping the consequences of its own arrogance. But that was fine. Because I also knew something else. They fired the wrong woman. And today, they were about to learn exactly how wrong. The moment I stepped out of the CEO's car and into the company parking lot, I felt it. That electric tension in the air. Like the building itself knew I was coming back. Like the servers deep inside were whispering. Mom is home. The front lawn was a circus. News vans. Tech bloggers. A couple of union guys grilling hot dogs on a portable stove because, hell, we're already on strike, might as well eat. One of them, Rico, niced me. Hey, you're the lady who told me last year not to click the email about free gift cards. I gave him a nod. You're welcome, that email had ransomware. He raised his hot dog in a salute. As James and I headed toward the entrance, every employee we passed had the same expression. A mix of hope and, holy crap, please save us. Even the receptionist practically sprinted out from behind the counter. Emma, thank God, people are about to riot. Relax, I told her. Riots need organization. Management can't even organize lunch orders. She laughed nervously. Then whispered, Someone's been in the bathroom crying for half an hour. Good, I said. Hydration is important when you're incompetent. The CEO cleared his throat beside me. Let's just get inside. The elevator doors opened and... wow. Absolute chaos. People pacing. Phones ringing nonstop. Managers sweating through their shirts. The IT team Googling things like, how to fix SQL without SQL. And, can you reverse a database explosion? The moment they saw me, the room went silent. Not metaphorically. Actually silent. Like someone unplugged reality. Even the vending machine paused. HR appeared out of nowhere, clutching a clipboard like a flotation device. Emma, do you need coffee? Water, a sacrifice. Relax, I said. I only sacrifice systems that deserve it. Then a voice echoed down the hallway. Emma. There he was. Vest crooked. Hair sweaty. Eyes puffy. He jogged up to me, breathless. Thank God you're here. We really need your help. I gave him a calm stare. Oh. I thought my role was redundant. His face drained of color. I didn't realize how complicated everything was. Complicated. Slow blink. It's the system that keeps society from collapsing. But sure, complicated. Before he could collapse into another apology, James stepped forward. She reports to the CIO now. She's here because we asked. Not because of anything you did. Translation. Shut up before she walks out again. I stepped past him and headed toward the hallway. Employees moved aside like I was Moses parting the Red Sea. If Moses carried a laptop bag and smelled like revenge and strong coffee. As we approached the server room, I felt it. The heat. The tension. The humming vibration of a system screaming for help. Someone was hovering outside the door, sweating like a sinner in church. They told us to, reset everything manually. I froze. Manually. As in flip the power. A tiny nod. I inhaled slowly. If they had done that, the entire payroll history, back to 2017, would have melted into digital soup. Did you touch anything? No, the sticky notes everywhere said never, ever power cycle, so we didn't. Good. One competent decision all day. I swiped my badge. The server room door clicked open. And there it was. My kingdom. My battlefield. My baby. Red warning lights. Overheated racks. Alerts blinking like they were begging for mercy. Someone peeked in behind me. Oh wow, it's kinda warm in here. I shut the door on his face. I cracked my knuckles. Sat in my old chair. Woke up the terminal. Green code. Red errors. Broken logic. Failed writes. Ghost entries. The beast was dying. All right, I whispered. Let's fix you. James hovered behind me. How long will it take? Hours, I said. Maybe all night. And can you actually fix it? I smirked. I can do anything except fix stupid. Luckily, this is only 70% stupid. He exhaled with relief. I started typing. Vast. Precise. Controlled. Killing hung processes. Unlocking frozen tables. Rebuilding indexes. Stitching together broken fragments of payroll logic. Breathing life back into a corpse they created. And slowly, the system began to respond. Like a heartbeat returning. After an hour, James said quietly behind me. You're incredible. No, I said. I'm necessary. I paused. Let the hum of the servers settle around me. He didn't understand. Not yet. But the next chapter is when everyone else does. The night air outside the server room felt colder than it should have as I stepped out, wiping a streak of thermal grease off my wrist. James and Sam followed behind me like exhausted shadows, both looking one bad surprise away from emotional collapse. Is it stable now? Sam asked. For the moment, I said, walking toward the hallway. But we're nowhere near safe. The office floor looked like a disaster movie. Every cubicle abandoned. Chairs pushed back. Coffee cups half full. Warning windows still glowing red on monitors like ghosts refusing to move on. Payroll day chaos had emptied the building. The only people still here were managers too terrified to go home, and junior IT techs pretending to troubleshoot while Googling basic SQL terms behind their screens. We turned a corner, and there he was. Brad, sitting on the floor with his back against the wall, knees pulled to his chest like he was waiting outside a dentist's office. For bad news. His laptop sat open beside him, filled with an Excel sheet flashing a graveyard of ref, null, and value. Errors. When he saw me, he scrambled to his feet. "Emma, please, I didn't know it would break everything." I held up a hand. "Brad, I don't have enough emotional capacity left to babysit right now." He wilted. Behind him, Chad appeared. Tie gone, hair wild, face blotchy like he'd been crying behind his executive coffee machine. "Emma," he said softly, "can we talk?" "You can talk," I said, "but I'm not promising to listen." He swallowed. "I messed up." "Yes," I said, walking past him, "you did." He followed, desperate. "Is there anything I can do to help fix this?" I stopped. Turned to him. "Chad," I said calmly, "right now you helping is the equivalent of handing scissors to a toddler on a moving airplane." He winced. James stepped in before he could answer. "Let her work," James said firmly. "We regroup in the morning." Translation: "Shut up before she quits and we're truly dead." We headed toward the conference room. People moved aside as I walked, almost parting like a wave. Not because I was intimidating. Because they finally realized who kept the lights on. Through the glass wall, I could see the office. Empty halls, abandoned laptops, printers blinking for attention. A battlefield after the first explosion. Inside, the table was a graveyard of cold sandwiches, empty cups, and crumpled financial printouts. I sat, opened my laptop, and the screen lit up with a visualization of the system climbing its way back from the dead. Sam hovered by the door. James sat across from me silently, like he was afraid the wrong breath would break whatever fragile life I'd put back into the servers. I cracked my knuckles. "Round 2, I muttered. Code filled the screen. Indexes rebuilding. Tables unlocking. Corrupted fields rewriting themselves. It was ugly, dangerous surgery. The beast wasn't alive yet. Just twitching back toward consciousness. James watched me the way someone watches a surgeon operate on a relative. After nearly an hour, he whispered, "You're remarkable." "No," I said. "I'm necessary." He nodded. "I understand that now." I kept typing, the rhythm sharp and steady. But as the logs scrolled and the heartbeat of the system steadied, I felt something shift. Not in the code. In the room. A presence. Footsteps. Slow. Controlled. Purposeful. I didn't turn yet. But I knew exactly who had just walked in. I didn't turn around at first. Whoever had walked in wasn't rushing, wasn't flustered, wasn't confused. That alone made them dangerous. Most executives walked like they were late for a meeting they didn't understand. This walk was slow. Controlled. Intentional. James stopped breathing beside me. Sam shifted his weight like he suddenly remembered he had somewhere else to be. Only then did I turn my head. And there he stood near the glass door. Not panicking like Chad. Not clueless like Brad. Not desperate like the mid-level managers outside. The CFO. Mark Hensley. The man who spent 7 years pretending it was a magical self-cleaning box. The man I'd only ever seen during budget meetings, where he pretended not to notice me. He closed the door softly and stepped inside like he owned the oxygen in the room. "Emma," he said, voice cool, "good, you're still here." I stared at him, unimpressed. Didn't know you knew where the IT floor was. A corner of his jaw twitched. "I'm here because we have a situation." "We have several," I said without looking away. "You'll have to be more specific." He moved closer to the table, but didn't sit. He placed both hands on the back of a chair, gripping it like he was holding himself upright. There are external parties involved now. His voice was calm, but his eyes weren't. I tilted my head. External? What kind of external? He hesitated. The State Labor Department flagged us early this afternoon. James cursed under his breath. Sam muttered something I couldn't catch. Mark continued. The IRS also flagged our federal transmissions. Then quieter. And there are other agencies asking questions. I leaned forward just slightly. Which agencies? He swallowed. The kind that don't send emails. The kind that call your private line and ask if you're available in the next hour. Perfect. Exactly what I expected when someone tries to process payroll using a spreadsheet built by a child. He reached into his folder and slid a stack of printed reports toward me. Payroll errors. Corrupted tax submissions. Overtime mismatches. Automatic federal rejections. I skimmed them. My jaw tightened. Some of these mistakes weren't just fixable. They were punishable. I closed the folder. How long has this been happening? Since the transition, he said. Since we switched to Brad's model. I let out a slow breath. And the system automatically submitted these. Yes. Meaning, I said, your company has spent 72 hours. N record, filing incorrect tax data to multiple federal and state systems. He nodded stiffly. And now, I said, it's all time-stamped. Another nod. For the love of God, Mark, I whispered. This isn't a tech issue anymore. It's a compliance disaster. He straightened. Which is why I'm here. We need you to fix this tonight. James sat forward. Emma's restoring payroll. That alone is a 12-hour job. Mark didn't blink. I know, which is why I'm offering her full control if she helps with compliance after. Define full, I said. No oversight, he replied. No interference, no budget approvals, no layers of management. Whatever you need, I'll clear it. I narrowed my eyes. And Chad. Removed from anything involving systems, he said immediately. And Brad. Gone, he replied, for good. I waited. Watched him. He wasn't lying. He looked like a man staring at the remains of a building he'd set on fire while insisting the flames were decorative. And I want a team of my own choosing, I said. No more interns, no more nephews of executives, actual talent. You'll have it. And I want direct access to the board. Mark nodded. You'll have that too. I stared at him for a long moment. Then finally stood. Fine, I said. I'll fix your compliance nightmare, but after payroll. Mark exhaled like he'd been underwater for minutes. Thank you. I didn't thank him back. I walked back to my laptop. The log scrolled. The system was stabilizing, but barely. If I didn't finish everything by sunrise, it would collapse again twice as hard. I got back to work. But as I typed, something flickered at the edge of my screen. Not an error. Not a warning. A connection attempt. A live one. Someone inside the building was trying to access the database. Someone who shouldn't have been anywhere near the system. The trace ID loaded. I stared at the name. Of course. I rested my fingertips on the keyboard. Well, I murmured. The name on the access trace blinked on my screen like a cosmic joke. Brad Hawkins. Workstation 7B. Executive floor. James leaned forward. Please tell me that's not. Oh, it is, I said. The spreadsheet sorcerer has returned. Sam moved toward the elevator immediately. I'll drag him out. Wait, I held up a hand. Let him try. Mark's eyes widened. Emma, he could recorrupt the system. I smirked. No, he can't. Not anymore. His access level is so low he couldn't even change the brightness on his own monitor. We all watched the live log scroll. He tried one login. Rejected. Tried again. Rejected. Then he tried a manual override using a SQL command that looked like it had been copied from a blog titled, learn databases in 10 minutes. Rejected. I pinched the bridge of my nose. There should be a license for this kind of confidence, I muttered. Then he switched tactics. He moved to the backups. He was trying to restore a snapshot from 2 weeks ago. If he succeeded, every fix I had made, every patch, every reconstructed log, every recovered tax file would vanish. The system would revert to its corrupted state. And by morning, the company would be facing not just a strike, but multiple federal violations. I stood up. Okay, fun's over. Sam tensed. You want me to get him? Not yet. I typed a command. Inject on-screen message to user 7B. A bright red warning filled Brad's screen. Stop touching the system and step away from the keyboard. Leave the building, now. A moment passed. Then Brad typed back. Is this IT support? I closed my eyes. Counted to 3. Considered screaming into a pillow. Sam had already left to fetch him. A minute later, the conference room door opened. Sam returned with Brad in tow. Brad looked like someone had unplugged his soul. I was just trying to help, he whispered. I folded my arms. Brad, you are the human equivalent of deleting a column in Excel and shifting all the payroll values into the hours worked field. He swallowed hard. I didn't mean to break things again. I blinked slowly. Brad again implies there was a point in time when you were not breaking things. His eyes dropped to the floor. Sam guided him gently toward the hallway. Brad hesitated at the doorway. Emma, I heard regulators were involved. I just wanted to show initiative. Mark nearly choked. You knew about regulators. Brad flinched. I mean, people are talking. I stared at him. Brad, this isn't initiative. This is the kind of decision that gets reenacted on Netflix with dramatic lighting and ominous piano music. He finally stepped out. The door closed behind him. Silence washed over the room. For a moment, all I heard was the hum of the building trying to survive itself. James looked at me. Is payroll intact? Barely, I said. But yes, and I'm locking the system so tight a fly couldn't land on it without needing two-factor authentication. Mark exhaled. And compliance. I can recover it, I said. Once payroll stabilizes. He nodded, relief and dread tangled in his expression. James leaned forward. What do you need from us to finish this? I took a breath. A team of my choosing. 0 interference from operations. A budget that doesn't require begging. And full authority over every system I touch. They both nodded without hesitation. And one more thing, I added. They waited. Next time something explodes, call me before you give a toddler a spreadsheet and tell him he's a genius. Mark nodded, almost solemnly. We understand. No, they finally understood. I sat back down at my laptop, cracked my fingers, and reopened the terminal. The beast was holding steady now. Weak but breathing. I started typing again. This next part, I said quietly, decides whether this company lives or dies tomorrow. And as the code scrolled across my screen, the moment Brad was escorted out of the conference room, the temperature in the building felt different. Calmer. Still full of panic, sure, but finally moving in the right direction. James sat down heavily, like someone who just survived turbulence at 30,000 feet. Mark rubbed his temples like he had aged 10 years in one night. Sam hovered near the door, ready to shut out whatever new disaster tried to crawl in. I was the only one who didn't sit. I walked toward the large glass window overlooking the darkened city. Lights flickered across the skyline. Traffic moved like veins pumping through the streets. Normal. Predictable. Stable. Everything this company was. James finally spoke. Is the system secure now? Yes. And the unauthorized attempts? Locked out permanently. Mark nodded, relieved and terrified. And the payroll, it's really fixed. I turned back to them. The transmissions are clean. Deposits will hit on time. Compliance files are corrected. Regulators won't have anything to escalate. Mark sagged against the table. James let out a breath that sounded like a man returning from the dead. Sam whispered, "Thank God." But I wasn't done. I walked back to the conference table and placed my hands flat on it. "I'm going to rebuild everything," I said. "All of it. Architecture, logging, integrations, security layers. None of that scrap metal Brad tinkered with ever touches the system again." James nodded. "You'll have whatever you need." Good. Because what I needed wasn't equipment or staff. It was compliance, respect, authority. The things they should have given me before they nearly burned the whole company to the ground. I closed my laptop and stood tall. "Sam," I said, "you're with me Monday morning, first hire." His eyes widened. "Me, really? You understand the system. You listen. You don't panic. You're hired." He nodded so fast, he looked like he might dislocate his neck. James cleared his throat. "And what about operations?" I smirked. "Operations," I said, "no longer has permission to breathe near my servers." Mark looked away to hide a smile. I slung my laptop bag over my shoulder and headed toward the hallway. But before I stepped out, James called after me. "Emma." I paused. He stood, straightened his suit, met my eyes. "You saved the company." I shook my head. "No," I said. "I saved the people who keep it alive." He swallowed hard, understanding far more than the words themselves. I walked down the hallway, quiet still, the chaos finally settling into exhausted silence. The elevator pinged. I stepped inside. The doors began to close. But then I stopped them with my hand, turned back toward the men staring at me like I was the only functioning part of the entire corporate machine. "One last thing," I said. They leaned in, tense. "When the next crisis hits, and it will hit, call me before you break anything." Mark nodded. James exhaled. Sam cracked a tiny smile. The elevator doors slid shut. As it carried me down through the silent floors, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This wasn't even justice. This was reclamation. My power. My work. My legacy. I walked through the lobby, past the empty reception desk, past the dim lights, past the company logo that had survived incompetence only because I held it up. Outside, the night air hit me like a wave of freedom. I didn't need applause. I didn't need gratitude. I had something far more satisfying. Control. I unlocked my car, tossed my bag into the passenger seat, and sat for a moment staring at the quiet building. It would survive. Because I made sure it did. I turned the key in the ignition. As the engine purred to life, I said softly, "Beast is fed. And Mama's back." Then I drove home, ready for the next disaster they'd inevitably create. The moment they forgot, who kept the entire world spinning.